I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're talking about a fantastic book that you want for your family. I can tell you that right now. It is called Children Learn, What Grandparents Teach. It's written by Dr. Mavis Aldridge. It's an enlightening book that celebrates the vital role grandparents play as wisdom keepers across cultures, highlighting the pearls of wisdom passed down through generations. It addresses modern challenges and problems such as distance and technology that have impacted family connections, offering a bridge to reconnect through shared knowledge and stories. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her important book. The links are below this interview. Doctor, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. What a privilege it is for me to be here.
Oh, the privilege is all mine. Tell me what inspired you to write a book focusing on the wisdom that grandparents give their grandchildren.
That's a very important question. In my teaching career, which lasted for several years, of course, I have always recalled the memories and the rich experiences I had teaching children in the fourth and fifth grade. They really enriched me as a program. And I always wanted to find a way to honor and celebrate those children. The idea kept nagging at me, tugging at me, and if I were to just ignore, discard, or forget it, I would be engaging in self-punishment. In other words, it was something waiting to be expressed and was yearning to be expressed. So I had to obey them. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the importance of grandparents in a grandchild's life. They have a unique role, don't you think?
Mr. Logan, to be honest with you, I think they are unsung heroes and heroes. I don't know the extent to which people are aware of this, but there are rapid societal changes that are occurring that alter the traditional family. One phenomenon that has emerged out of this is the single parenting. Parents have to leave home and to go to distant places to find work, serve for long hours, some have even migrated to other states or even to another country. And who is left to pick up the tab with the children? 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 6-year-old, the grandparents. Maybe one grandparent, maybe two. So they are the ones who really are there for the children and of course converse with them every day, training them, taking them to school, picking them up from school, getting them to games or whatever activities. So they are hearing from grandmother some of these very things, problems, and their lives are enriched. But sometimes the children don't even know it's the classroom that brings it all together. And really gives light to those expressions we hear from their grandparents.
Absolutely. In your book, you offer pearls of wisdom that are featured. Tell us about how you selected these pearls of wisdom.
How did I select them? Well, first of all, Logan, I needed to create a story. And I didn't want to follow the traditional patterns that I have seen in other children's books. Not that they're not good, or they're wonderful, but the other children's books, for example, The Wizard of Oz or Cinderella, it's usually the pattern where there's a there's a conflict, somebody has to go through a struggle, there is adventure, there's a hero, and somebody conquers whatever it is, the problem is, and comes out triumphant. And that's wonderful. It enhances children's imagination. I want us to veer away from that tradition. So the question became, how best can I do that? It's the selection of proverbs that would match a story. All right, how do I do that? It needed to involve grandparents. It needed to involve the community from which they are also enriched. And I came up with the story, and it just really flowed. And I selected a proverb that would match each situation or experience that was happening in the community, always the grandparents.
How do we bridge the gaps? How do we connect in a world where, you're in California perhaps, and then the children are in Spain? I mean, it's sometimes difficult in this modern world, right?
How do we bridge the gap?
Yeah. How do we build bridges to connect with the grandchildren when they live far away?
Oh, that's another one that is quite interesting. This book has the possibility of doing that. This book has the possibility of doing just that. Children will have heard what their grandparents have told them, and there is what is called now the cell phones and the Zoom, like what you and I are using right now, and the conversations can still continue. Children are in the classroom, what they're learning, and could say, "Oh, grandma, you know what my teacher had us doing last week? The very thing that I heard you say, you have taught us you can't cross a bridge before you come to it, or those who have glass houses should not throw stones, or if you want to eat honey, you must bear the sting of bees." So all of that can come through these categories and the possibility of going on Zoom as we are doing right now.
Yeah.
So that is one way of connecting.
Absolutely.
That's one that has really helped me and has passed. It's almost being terminated. It's the issue of writing later. That is almost, but not quite. That still happens. Yes. So to bridge the distance, as you asked, is to continue the conversation. And not just with one grandparent, wherever they are, we can call a collective meeting, just like what is happening here now. And grandparents are still talking to the children, wherever they are. In Spain, United States, in England, Australia. This is the magic of the new invention they have.
Exactly. If you want to stay in touch, there's a way to stay in touch. If you want to be connected, there's a way to be connected. Do you think young parents need to realize that extended family is important to their children, and then perhaps rethink moving away and perhaps stay closer to home if possible?
Oh, Mr. President, is it important? Is that the question you asked? Is that the question you asked? Could you repeat that question, please?
Oh, sure. I'm saying, do you think young parents should be aware and realize the importance of extended family, including grandparents, and unless it's absolutely necessary, don't move a great distance away. Try to stay closer to the grandparents and the aunts and uncles and the extended family?
Yes, Logan, that is such an important question. You know what I have to notice is that the young parents, when they have moved away from home, in the name of survival, sooner or later begin to feel the disconnect between their children and their parents. And it's a yearning, it creates a yearning It creates a kind of loneliness
Mm.
and a kind of sadness. And yes, they are become sharply aware and will find ways to do that. Some will make sacrifices to save and to go back just to visit their children and their parents and to reconnect with their children. Sometimes it takes a long time, very sad. But thank goodness, again, at least there's the issue of the cell phone and something called WhatsApp, which permits at least a voice connection. Maybe not a physical one, but a voice. Yes. But do they recognize the importance of connecting? Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, who did you write the book for? Is it mostly for parents? Is it for grandparents? Is it for school administrators and teachers? Who's your audience for this book?
All three. All three. Look, I would say primarily for teachers. They could get so much from this, so enriched by the classroom activities that they can engage their children in. As I mentioned earlier, it was for celebrating and honoring the grandparents who took care of the children. Where teachers are concerned and administrators are, teachers should recognize all the skills that they can develop with children in the classroom. The possibility, the book is a treasure trove of all the possibilities of a range of critical thinking skills that the teachers could really develop with the children. Come on, take for instance the issue of reasoning, asking questions, making connections, making applications to situations. Some readers who have read the book and have given feedback have said, this is fit for a page craft. This could be developed into a play on a stage for a whole community as well as the school. There goes the possibility of the intervention of administrators. Where the grandparents are concerned, it is there again, telling them of the work that they're doing, and they should continue to do that. They will really be aware of the good that they're doing for the children. Yeah. So there is also, Mr. Logan, something that I don't know that is being discussed in the school or in the home as much as it should, perhaps indirectly, but it's the issue of character traits. The issue of character traits. And this book helps with that tremendously by the themes that are that emerge from the story. Take, for example, as an illustration. Okay, one that I used before. You want to eat honey, you must bear the sting of it. Oh, what is that teaching right there? It is the courage to pursue a goal, the perseverance that demands, be able to understand that there may be discouragement and failures, but not to accept that as a reason for defeat and to give up, but rather as a catalyst for new attempts and renewed efforts to pursue the goal. These are character issues, in addition to learning about language and the linguistic underpinnings, the ambiguity that is in metaphorical expression, and how to resolve them, how to reconcile one meaning with another meaning. All these are exciting activities that can be in a classroom. However, It also takes students into other subjects. For example, the issue of going back to if you want to eat honey, you must be the king of bees. Take other role models, for example, to explain that. How about Nikola Tesla, for example? The many failures he had before he achieved the light bulb. Somebody like whom I heard on not too long on one of the channels, Jackie Robinson, who went through such discouraging moments in his career as a baseball player, the put downs and the criticisms and all kinds of deterring incidents. But he had a goal in mind. He wanted to do his best, and he became a champion. It's a night all around. And how about women like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who started the women's rights movement to give women the right to vote? That's another example. You want to eat honey, you must bear the sting of bees. Did they undergo failure, discouragement? The whole process took 75 years, but of course, the honey came after that. Women could vote. So it takes the learning process into other subject areas, and children can make connections, and they are stimulated. I am not sure whether I answered your question.
No, you absolutely have. I think it was fascinating information. In fact, it reminds us that one of the roles of grandparents is to provide information and lessons to grandchildren in a historical perspective. You've lived more of life, you've witnessed more of life. There's a lot you can share through storytelling with grandchildren, don't you think?
Of course. And that is what happened with the grandparents in the book. Here is one I recall was telling the group, all the grandparents gathered there, and the children in the front row, and they are listening about her child when she began working with drugs, and the grandmother wasn't paying attention. But then she found out what was up. She thought that she was helping her and being kind by giving her a little money to spend, but the daughter was using it for other purposes. But then when her second daughter began showing the same signs, she knew that she had to do something different and stop it right there. And later on, the child was able to go to college. Yes. So all that process, the storytelling, and the grandparents were applauding her because she used another proverbial expression. Good, you stroke while the iron was hot. In other words, she did not postpone her effort. She knew what was happening and took steps to correct it right then. Oh yeah, and I think it's truly fascinating. This could have so much favorable repercussions in the hands of a creative teacher and the grandmothers who continue to teach them the story.
Absolutely. Also, grandparents have something that parents don't have, and that's time. Grandparents often have a lot of time to fill, time to spend with their grandchildren. So that's another wonderful aspect that grandparents can give to their grandchildren is the gift of just spending time with them, right?
Of course, and the experiences they had that give so much color to what is happening now with the children in their life.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. Do you have grandchildren? Tell me how you stay connected with them if you do.
I don't have children, Logan. It's not a path that I chose to do for myself. I knew from very early that having children is not a good thing for me to do. I'm from a very large family, and my uncles and aunts, they also had large families. So I was given the sense real sense that that is not my path. However, I keep in touch with them. As a matter of fact, in mid-May, I'm meeting with a large gathering of family members of about 50. And we are going to be talking stories.
Wonderful. The large family gatherings are the best. It's good for every generation from young to old. The young people get a lot of wisdom from the older generation, and the older generation gets a lot of energy and insight from the younger generation. So that's the beauty of mixing generations. In fact, they actually think it's one of the secrets to a long life, having relationships with people of different generations, right?
You're quite right, Mr. Logan. This is going to be 4 generations meeting. And the younger ones, when they hear what is going on, they will not forget. And then they will pass it on to their siblings and younger ones when they get older. That's the importance of it. And not to focus it so much on eating, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
You want to nourish yourself, yes, physically, but to nourish everyone there morally and spiritually. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Through the story.
Yeah. In fact, don't you think that when it comes to socialization, civilization, and morality, grandparents who've lived a longer life than the parents often have more to share on those types of topics?
Oh, yes. This is why I call them the unsung heroes and heroines. It is where their experience is coming. And Mr. Logan, that's a very important point you just made. You see, the grandparents have seen changes that have happened in society over the time that they have lived. And they're speaking to a younger generation that cannot imagine their strategies for survival during those years that they have faced. For example, in my family, when I was growing up, we didn't have electricity. There was a wooden stove, and we had to use lamps for kerosene, used by kerosene. These children are now just switching on a light, and they have light. They use a microwave. There's another, and there's a refrigerator. It has become so much a part of their life that it is impossible to imagine. So, in hearing from the grandparents and the contrast and the development and the improvement, this is where it becomes important that they ought to understand that they have a responsibility to society. Having these privileges.
Exactly. There's so much perspective that a grandparent can give the grandchildren. It's amazing. I mean, even living through the era of African Americans getting civil rights in this country. Like you said, you remember a time when you didn't have, different utilities in the house. But you also remember a time when African Americans were treated completely different than white Americans. And that's explained well by a grandparent as well, somebody who's lived through it, correct?
Yes, definitely. And again, it brings into perspective how important it is for the young ones to recognize how fortunate they are. And because they are fortunate, so much more fortunate than their grandparents, there is a responsibility that they have to those who are living currently with them to understand the changes, to understand that their purpose for life becomes much more vital in the roles that they will play in bringing about change. And the question becomes, what kind of change are they equipping themselves to see? It's to understand understand who they are, where they're going, and what is the purpose that they're here to fulfill.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great words of advice, great wisdom. The name of the book is Children Learn What Grandparents Teach. It is written by Mavis Aldridge, Ph.D. It's an enlightening book that celebrates the important role that grandparents play as wisdom keepers across cultures, as wisdom keepers across generations as well. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. I do appreciate your having me.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate your wisdom. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.